From the American Forces Network Europe, Regional News Bureau, this is Primetime Europe.
Max Garcia and his family traveled from California to Austria to tour the Mauthausen Labor Camp Memorial and pay their respects. Each visit to this annual event has become more and more difficult for Max, so he's brought his daughters and granddaughters for support.
And I've come here to Mauthausen and to Ebensee about, when my wife still lived, we came here every year from about the late 70s, early 80s. And then I got sick and then had a triple bypass. And then my cardiologist kind of wanted me to slow down a bit. And we picked up again about 3 or 4 years ago, and I started coming back every year. My granddaughters asked me, can we see it? Can we come with you? And I said, well, if that's what you want, come on. Yeah, they'll be remembered here. That's why we're here, because they wanted to see it and really live it and see it for themselves.
However, Max is no ordinary tourist. 67 years ago, he was a prisoner here.
I was born in Amsterdam, Holland, wound up in the camps because I'm Jewish in 1943, because I was hidden for about 7 months in Amsterdam. My youngest sister was picked up after she was 16 and gassed. They were gassed in Sobibor. And I was arrested in August of 1943. Somebody had betrayed me. And I wound up in Auschwitz in August 23rd, 1943. And I spent my entire prison experience practically all in Auschwitz. When on the 18th of January 1945, we went on our first death march out of Auschwitz to Gleiwitz, where there was a railroad yard. We were loaded onto trains. Some of them, a friend of mine went to Dachau, and I went to Mauthausen, and that trip to Mauthausen took 11 days and nights. Open boxcars, no roofs on them. When we arrived in Mauthausen, about 10% of those who were on the train survived. 90% died on the road. And of course, the place is very impressive from down below. When you see it, when you drive up, you say, my God, this looks like a real prison. And that's what it was. And it was all built by prisoners. Everything that you see here was built by prisoners.
How many people slept in one of those?
At the end of the war, we slept with 3 in one cot.
3 of you?
Yeah.
In each one of those?
Yeah, and then Ebensee, at the far end, there were 4 of us in a cot.
4 of you?
You were so skinny, you had no difference. Second layer was here, third layer, fourth layer.
So they have them here.
So, yeah.
And there were 4 of you in one?
What?
So there'd be 4 on each level at some point?
At the end of the war. But in the beginning it was 1, and then there was 2, and then there was 3, and finally there were 4, and it was just crowded with people. In a prison camp like this, like a concentration camp, you live from day to day. If you wake up in the morning, hey, it's another day. If you go to bed at night, it was another day. And then you don't worry about the next day. If you wake up, it's fine. If you don't wake up, you have nothing to worry about. I survived because I had very many lucky breaks in my prison career. And the last one in Auschwitz, I had been operated on in Auschwitz, the first Jew ever operated on, because I had a 4.5-day appendicitis that could burst any moment. The prison doctor, the fellow prisoner who was a doctor, called the SS doctor on duty. And I said, I got a Jew here, about 20-year-old boy who was at a 4.5-day appendicitis that can burst any moment. What do you want me to do with him? So get him to the operating room, I'm coming right over. And that's why I'm here today. If the damn thing had exploded, they would have tossed me away. Because I asked later on the doctor, and I said, why was I operated on? And he said I had the same question, so I asked him. And he said, well, We had very good textbooks when I was a student in medical school. Very good teachers. But I had never, all our books were colored in black and white pictures in gray. There were no colors. So that's the first time I ever could see what a potential dangerous appendicitis could be. That's all. He said, that's all you had them operated on? He said, yeah. So later on I complained to the German government that I was a medical experiment, and they said, you were, and so they sent me a check as well. No, seriously, I'm not making this up. We walked out of here, trucks were waiting for us, they took us to milk.
So you slept on the ground, it was freezing. It was winter.
They didn't care.
No, I just time of year for me. It was January.
I don't want you
said?
to cry again.
I'm gonna cry.
But way out there, we slept on the ground, we had a jacket and a pair of pants, and that was it.
And it was
And
December?
they brought food in, and that's about it. I got my first beating in this place that I had a concussion that lasted me for almost 2 months. And I just followed other prisoners, whatever they did, and I followed them. I didn't know anything where the hell I was. And from there, we went on a second death march. That took 6 days to get from Linz to Ebensee, which is about a 2-hour drive from here. And that's why I was liberated on the 6th of May. When the tanks came to Ebensee, they came in, they made stop in the middle, and the sergeant in the first tank came out of his turret and looked around, and he started taking a packet of cigarettes out of his uniform, and I recognized it right away because I saw they had a red ball in the middle. And the little English that I knew, I said, it's been a long time since I've had a lucky strike. And he said, who said that? And I said, I did. He said, get up here. And then he gave me a cigarette and lit it. And I took my first drag, and the whole goddamn world went just like this. And I led him around the camp and showed him what had taken place during that day. And they saw legs lying about, and a head and arms. And he said, that's awful, what's been on here? And so I explained to him. And he said, this is worse than having been in combat. I'd never seen anything like this in combat. And the place stinks here. He said, yeah, well, we don't know it because we've been so used to it for so many years. And so that afternoon, we were liberated about between 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He called his headquarters and said, I got a guy here who speaks English. And the captain said, don't let him out of sight. I'm sending a jeep over right away. And that afternoon, I was down at the Army, the headquarters of the F Company of the 3rd Cavalry. And we went sent to headquarters in Frankfurt. 4 weeks later, I was in the United States. Overnight, I got my visa through the officer of the State Department who was representing in Frankfurt. And then I finally wound up in Army Language School at Monterey, California, and I got sick and I got discharged from the Army. And that's when I wound up in San Francisco. I said, I'm not moving anymore, San Francisco is it. And I met my late wife. And we got 3 kids out of this, and I built a good practice that when the time I retired, I had 24 employees. But that wasn't bad for a guy who came here as an immigrant. And what kept me going is, I was too young to die, I think. And I just kept living, and living was very difficult. You have to use every ingenuity that you could think of. And you should outsmart the Germans, and I did. All the guys who liberated me, who guarded me supposedly, they're all dead, thank God. I outlived them, and the prisoners who were there, and you saw them basically from Poland who had the striped jackets on, we outlived our guards. And that's our satisfaction in many ways.
Each year, fewer and fewer survivors are able to attend. But people like Max's family continue to honor the fallen, making sure that future generations never forget. Staff Sergeant John Archiquette, Mauthausen, Austria.